When it comes to getting the right cards, the first thing you want to figure out is which is the right card for you. The right card for you is going to be which one are you getting the most points on based on what you spend on.
When you can do that with 2, 3, 4 cards, your ability to vastly increase your points earning is huge. I redeemed about 4.7 million points, and that covered over $300,000 worth of travel.
How do I learn how to maximize my points the way you have?
In order to maximize our travel, we got to be maximizing.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Business Podcast. Today, I have masterminds of travel, Eli and Tommy of Freedom Travel Systems. So I'm so excited to get with these guys because they are, I know that I personally don't utilize my points the way I'm supposed to, but so we'll just jump right into it, man. Like, what are the best cards for 2024?
Wow. So it's a really common, great question. There's kind of two answers to this. We can give you some tactical ones. I'm sure Tommy can drop all sorts of nuggets in here, but specifically when it comes to getting the right cards, the first thing you want to figure out is which is the right card for you, because not everyone should be using the same card, right? The right card for you is going to be which one are you getting the most points on based on what you spend on. Okay. So we like to start by thinking about the right banks. Between Chase and Amex are typically the first two. We'll kind of jump right into it. But if you ask like what's in the top of your wallet, probably for both of us, the Amex Gold is one that we both are going to consistently use. I like some of the Chase Sapphire cards, like the Chase Sapphire Reserve. And those are on the personal side. And there's business cards as well. But maybe you have a couple others you want to drop in there.
Yeah, I would say, I'm going to piggyback on that. But yeah, Chase Sapphire Reserve, that's the travel card.
Yeah.
All things travel can go there. The Amex Gold card, that's a card that we use for food. That card earned us the most points for food. The Reserve earns us the most points for travel. So you kind of with me here. It's using the right cards on the things that earn you the most money.
Totally.
That we're spending on a regular basis. And when you can do that with, 2, 3, 4 cards, your ability to, vastly increase your points earning is huge by just, implementing a simple strategy. So there isn't, hey, what's the best card? Those are some of the best cards, but it's going to be different
for your situation.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. And so no Amex Platinum, is that just for people who want to flex?
It's a good card for specific situations. One of those being the perks and benefits that you get to use. So we like to break this into 3 major buckets. Okay. So the first bucket is maximize your spending, so you get the most points possible. Okay, that's bucket 1. So it's getting the right cards. Bucket 2 is get the most value out of those points. And bucket 3 is going to be maximize your perks and benefits. So that means status, that means upgrades, that means free breakfast, that means lounges, that means all that stuff. The platinum is a really good card for that third bucket. Yeah. For most other things, it's not great. It can be good for some of those other benefits, but primarily it's going to be a lifestyle-oriented card.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. And I've heard people talk about like the Capital One Venture, like that's like a sleeper card. Is that, in your rotation or are you guys? Yeah.
Yep. So we kind of talked about like, we got these different buckets, or I kind of call them like, your core cards. These are the cards that are getting all the spend. Yep. In terms of my core cards, the Capital One Venture and Venture X is absolutely one of my core cards. I use that card. Yep. It's similar to some of the other cards, but I use it specifically for the fact that I earn 2x points minimum on every single purchase. So maybe I'm using my platinum card for flights and my gold card for food or the Chase Sapphire Reserve. But then if it's not food or travel, where I'd be earning 1x point on those cards, all of my other spend, I'm putting on the Capital One. So that does a couple things. One, it maximizes our earnings. But now I've also diversified my points. I've got Chase, Amex, and Capital One, giving me the most amount of opportunities to redeem them and get some sick travel.
That's incredible. So we were talking about it briefly before the podcast, but what was the dollar amount in terms of value that you redeemed last year?
So me personally, I redeemed about 4.7 million points. Wow. And that covered over $300,000 or $307,000 worth of travel. I've got a spreadsheet. I don't need to bust it out. But I track all this stuff because I'm a nerd. But to frame that out, guys, for $307,000 worth of travel, to go through Amex Travel to redeem those points, that same amount of travel would have cost $30 million. Wow.
Cool. So for somebody who's like just getting started, how do I learn how to maximize my points the way you have?
Well, there's just 2 kind of pieces there. One is, hey, in order to maximize our travel using points, we got to be maximizing our points earning.
Of course.
So it's starting with, hey, asking yourself, what are the 2, 3 things that me personally or as a business, what are we spending the most money on? What's that card that's going to plug in? So we got that piece down. That's a pretty simple exercise. And then you're on autopilot. The redeeming of the points, this is where all the money's made, but this is where most people, kind of miss the ball, let's just say, or they give up. But the idea is we want to be earning these points within the banks, Amex, Capital One, Chase. But when we go to use them, we want to pull them away. We want to transfer them to all these different airline partners and hotel programs because that allows us to break away from that fixed value of the point.
Yeah.
So key is maximize those earnings of transferable points. I can get into the whole nitty gritty of it, but the idea is we don't book through the portals. You're getting a minimum value. We want to go sniff out those flights in those hotels and then pull our points over to that airline or to that hotel. That's where the 5X, 10X multiples start coming in.
Got it. And obviously you guys probably have a system for it now within like your training and all that. But when you were first starting out, like how long would it take you to like track down like, okay, like Kuwait Airlines has this sick deal, right? Like how does it work?
Well, I mean, to your point, like, how do you get started? I made so many mistakes when I was first doing this. This is before a lot of social media accounts too. Like back in my day, right? It kind of felt like that, but it's like you're reading the credit card blogs, like you're reading the airlines like website on their terms and policies. So it's like that was like how we figured this out. It was like hundreds of hours of just like reading stuff because we were kind of obsessed. And this is one of those things that kind of turns into that gamification where like people play video games to beat the boss. Yeah. It's like for us, the boss is like you got an Emirates first class flight with a bar and a shower and like that's kind of cool. But for me personally, one of my biggest mistakes was I was earning the wrong type of points. So we talk about that first bucket, which is maximize the points earnings. To Tommy's point, being able to transfer those points opens up a lot of opportunity for value, but that's only for those certain types of points. If you have the wrong points, you can't do that. So I got like a Southwest card was one of my first cards and like a British Airways card. I don't know why. I just like was like, these look cool. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I can't get to Japan using Southwest or British Airways miles. So like, this is going to be kind of difficult. So I couldn't piece things together. So for me, I had to figure out what were the right cards to get first because specifically I needed to get the right points. And then it was like, how do I actually put these to use now? That was kind of the second layer. So that was my initial hurdle. A lot of people run into issues with their credit. So making sure they know how to make sure their credit profile stays really good. And over time, like when we do this and when our clients do this, their credit score is going to go up over time because there's some really simple things to do there. But those are some of the common things that I run into and a lot of people do as well. You've probably got a couple of your own.
Yeah, similar. I mean, I was dumb where I messed my credit up in college and I started learning about this game, but I couldn't play it. I was still sitting on the sidelines because I had to spend time, fixing my credit. I mean, this whole game starts with, we can talk points and travel. I mean, there's all pieces of this credit, but I had to get my credit fixed up, which in time I did. Took me, about a year of just heavy swiping on the card, paying it in full, like getting some history there. But then essentially, I think my biggest flop early on, because we've both had several, was we talk about this points transfer thing. I grasped that concept. I was like, okay, to get better value, better flights, you want to transfer your points out. Well, I think I built up like 100,000 points, which back in the day, like that was a big amount. Like that was kind of my whole pot there.
Yeah.
I transferred those out to an airline without actually like finding a flight. I'm like, okay, cool. If I just pull them out, I'll be able to book the flight that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Well, the key is before you transfer, you want to make sure that the flight or the flight you're looking at or anyone that would work is available to book. So I pulled all these points that I could have done 20 different things with, 50 different things with, and now I sent them all to one place where the way I wanted to use them or intended, I can't actually do because there's no flights available. So that was a big, big pain point for me, but that's how you learn this stuff too. It's not just reading about it, it's actually executing on it. And that's the only time I've ever transferred points and had that disaster.
That happened to me too. Same thing when I was going to Greece. I was like, okay, like Delta for sure has flights. And I was like, I think there was like a good transfer deal or whatever. And I was just trying to do what you guys were doing. And I was like, okay, sure. Like I'm going to move them over. And then I realized I was like, well, wait a second. Like it's actually not that good of a deal. And I was like, well, whatever. I guess like I'm committed now at this point. And like, luckily, like it wasn't the end of the world for me. And then we had a great trip and it was still super fun.
Sure.
But so I guess, how do you avoid some of those? And I guess it's probably just research, but like, how do you avoid some of those pitfalls or, talk to me about what your process is today, right?
Yeah. I mean, so when it comes to making sure that you avoid the pitfalls once you have the points, that's like the next kind of big one. You already got the points, right? You want to know what is a good deal, what's a bad deal. Like, because if you don't know what a good deal, it's kind of like if you're in real estate, you'd be like, oh, this is like, I'll flip this house. Like, well, that's a terrible deal, right? You need to know like what's a good usage of points and what's a bad usage of points. So there's a couple different ways to know that. And the main thing is going to be called cent per point. Okay. So it's like, how much value am I getting out of each point that I use? So if you go to Amex Travel, or Chase Travel or these other travel portals, we call them, they give you 1 cent per point, right? That's the baseline. If you go to like Amazon or you use them for gift cards or statement credits, oftentimes you get 0.6 of a cent. So you're getting even less. You're almost getting half, which is bad. If you do this conversion process where you take the points and then you convert them into the airlines or hotels at the right opportunity, that's where you'll see the 2, 3, 4, 5x. So that's the first piece. Know if it's a good deal or not, because to your point, right, when you convert them to Delta, if you knew, okay, this is not a good usage of my points, you don't convert them and then you don't have that issue. So that saves you from even having to run into those problems down the road. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, if you're, depending on your type of travel, you want to know like your kind of couple 2 to 3 to 4 kind of go-to strategies, right? So like I live in Austin, I end up flying American Airlines a lot just because of the nature of how the airlines work. So I know a couple good go-to strategies specifically for American because that's a major airline for me. So if I live in Austin or let's say Dallas, which is an American hub, and like Delta's not operating a lot out of there, it doesn't make sense for me to learn all these point strategies about Delta. So kind of that second piece is find the things that are relevant for you specifically, and then just really focus on those, because you don't want to have 1,000 strategies if you only need a couple, really.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like listening to this, I'm like, this sounds like a lot of work, right? So how do you guys make it easy? I guess would be the better question.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why we built the business, right? And that was initially like my vision for this. When I first kind of thought about it, I was like, okay, I'm saving myself a lot of money. I'm saving at the time I was running a tour company and we were building that a lot. I was saving the company like $50,000 a year in travel. I was like, this is really cool. But I knew how much work it took me to learn that. And I was like, how do we take the value and turn it into a scalable program and system for other people? So we built a couple of different things. We have like a couple different offers to it. We have one where we just do it for people. It's concierge. We tell them exactly what cards to get. We basically help them use their points. It's kind of like if there was like a CPA for credit cards, met Points Geek, met Travel Advisor. It's kind of like that.
So I just show up, hey, this is my credit score. How do you guys make it better? And then
make sure your credit's good. We then look at your spending. We'd say, okay, based on your spending and how much you're traveling, where you're traveling to, and the kind of things that you value, the size of your family, and how much you're spending on ads versus software versus home supplies or whatever it may be. These are the cards that are going to maximize your situation. And then you'd say, okay, I want to go to Greece. Cool, we'll handle it. We have that, which is like, you don't even think about it. We have a lot of 7-8 figure business owners in there that are, they're short on time and they just want the value. It's like, great, concierge. Then there's a tier where it's more like, we're going to do the 80-20 and say, here's the shortcuts and hacks. Here's the tools. Here's the AI software that's out there. Here are the like 4 or 5 things you need to know for your situation. And we just teach it in that format. So really consolidated stuff. So it's not so overwhelming.
Got it. And how long have you guys been operating that business for?
3 years.
3 years? Yep. Nice. And what's the back end look like as far as like your team and stuff like that? Is it just the 2 of you, or do you guys?
Not anymore.
Good.
Yeah. We got a full team. So I was telling you beforehand. So when I first started to think about this and grow it, I was like, wow, this is a lot of work to deliver this the right way. And there was a lot of people in our industry. We're like the first company to do it like this. There's a lot of people who have a blog, and there's a lot of people who do kind of some one-off stuff, but no one that was really delivering a lot of value at scale. Like we're saving some people hundreds of thousands a year.
Oh, for sure.
And so I was like, how can we do that? That's where we connected. I was like, I need an expert to come on. And I had some operations in place, like a VA, I had an operator. And then Tommy came in and we built out a whole team, basically with him overseeing all the delivery and fulfillment. So now we've got about 12 team members across the world.
Wow.
A couple on the sales side. The fulfillments are our heavy side because it is pretty technical.
I bet.
And that's where the value is driven. That's why we have results that like people are actually showing like, hey, I just went on a $50,000 honeymoon with my wife and here we are, versus awesome. Like, I have a lot of information, but I didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. So how are you guys acquiring customers right now? Obviously you guys have decent sized socials, but how are you guys driving?
We got a lot of different channels. I mean, we do a lot of speaking events, webinars, stuff like that, small group things. Honestly, both of our Instagrams were probably the main traction channel, specifically his. His blew up a lot during 2022 summer. Like Reels were just taking off. We were showing travel and you can touch on that. But beyond that, we do a lot of YouTube ads as well. Nice. So that's our main paid acquisition channel is
all YouTube ads. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. But a lot of it too, though, now is, now that we're up and going, we've gotten some awesome clients we've gotten to work with and we've delivered the results. So, it's a lot of it's been like that internal referral. Yeah. It's like, hey, you got to go, you hear the word like credit card points or travel. It's like, you got to go talk to Tommy. You got to go talk to Eli. Like this is what these guys are doing. So, building up like that hype, but, delivering the wins and then to be able to build up the hype where someone naturally wants to, hey, these guys will help you with that. So I think that's been a huge piece. But you're not going to have that until you're delivering the goods. So building up to that point. So now we just like Eli said, we got multiple ways of kind of coming in with things, but the more the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously for us, like YouTube ads are amazing. Well, we actually don't run anything ads on YouTube, but like the leads that we get from the podcast, from all the other YouTube videos that we put out are some of our highest quality.
Yeah.
And then obviously your Instagram has been crushing. So talk to me about how that growth on the Instagram side was, because obviously I'm sure you guys have been putting in the work and putting in the effort. Like, what about that first 6 months of you like really posting travel content? How was that?
Well, it was really cool because, it was cool and not so cool. The cool part was like, it was getting out there. People were loving it. Stuff's going viral. I had a reel that went to 25 million views.
Nice.
He had several reels that went to like multiple millions.
Recently, or was that like back when you guys were first starting out?
It was like 2022, 2023,
nice.
Early, probably like 2022 June through like 2023 summer was like our.
And what kind of content were you guys putting out? Was it like the travel stuff where you guys are like just on a sick beach and beautiful hotels, or what was it? Yeah.
Well, so like this is where it was kind of cool. Where me and Eli saw each other. We're like, okay, like he's got his great, tons of value, like educational, but then also the use case where mine is, I'm not on there be like, hey, did you know you could do this, or hey, did you know about that? It's like, hey, look, here's me on a first class flight. Here's how you can do it. Yeah. Here's me in a overwater villa. So my Instagram page is basically like it's a catalog. I don't talk about it. I'm doing it.
Yeah, love that.
Read the caption. You're gonna learn a few things. But think of it as just as aspirational points travel content. Yeah, anybody can do this. Here's me doing it. And it just blew up. Yeah. Slap some good audio on there, and the
audios are big. For my side, I tried to basically alternate between like value add kind of talking head style and then something that has a chance to go viral. So like the formula was like, okay, trending audio with something sexy in the video, because we are doing travel. So it's like you show an Emirates flight. It's like with a good audio and like maybe those few like 5 words you can see, that's gonna be somewhat controversial. Like the ones that went viral usually had that formula. So I would try to get reach with those and then have value add content posts as well. So people are seeing the value and then run retargeting ads off the back of that too. Absolutely. For Instagram retargeting. And that was kind of the initial, like how we got traction. But to your question, it was like, how was that? Well, initially we were getting all this reach and we were like, why isn't anyone buying our shit? And we had to figure out, like, even now, because it gets nuanced, we had to figure out really how to simplify the message. And that has been the hardest part, especially because there's not a built formula for how to do this. Like we're kind of creating it's a blue ocean in that sense, like in the marketing term. Yeah. And so we're creating as we grow. And so finding that product market fit and the resonance has been probably the most challenging part.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And just how to convert these people who are just aspirational, like who like the content, are watching it, but might not actually be your like target market, or exactly like the exact person who's going to really interact with it. I'm sure that's probably like the challenge that you guys are dealing with. And something that we deal with too sometimes, right? Because like some people want to learn how to flip houses, or some people want to be entrepreneurs, but they might not actually have a business yet. Right. So I get that for sure. And so what does your like marketing funnel look like right now? Are you guys doing like call to action to a landing page, then book a call with somebody? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much on the paid side and referrals, anything, they're going through pretty much the same funnel, but it's usually going to be some form of ad or introduction, whatever it is. VSL, 9-minute free training, disco call, and that's pretty value add consult call, because usually people come in not knowing a lot. Yeah. And so before they're even like genuinely qualified to buy from us, we need to make sure they understand how does this work, what are the points worth, all that stuff, and then sales call. And so that's basically the funnel. And
then who's taking the sales calls? You guys have salespeople that are doing that right now?
Yeah, we'll still take some closing calls and stuff, but we have a sales team. We're bringing a couple of new reps on as well right now.
Nice. Yeah. And so how'd you find those salespeople?
Honestly, one of the cool things, actually, we talked about this, pretty much all of our team came to us. Oh, that's inbound. So good. It was really good. It was like people that were fans or followers. They saw us speak. They saw us at, different events, or they saw us on Instagram and they reached out to us. And then there's people, it kind of like kept them in the loop for a long time and ran a hiring funnel. We're like, you know what, this person that reached out to us is the best fit. So there's been a couple where it's been a more traditional hiring funnel, but for the most part, the brand really attracted the right kind of person, and having that interest in travel, having the interest in the point side, just is a culture fit off the bat, right? So that helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you mentioned is exactly what we do as well, where it's like when you have a lot of content that's already out and you've already built this brand, you're automatically going to attract the right people who want to work with you, and they're already going to be culture and values fits from the get-go, which I think is so important. And I think like if there are already a full list of reasons as to why you should build a personal brand, like that's another one.
Totally.
Right? Obviously, like the inbound leads, and you guys already have this brand. So even if somebody sees your YouTube ads, then they go look at your channel. They're like, okay, this guy's legit. They're putting out content, and it just adds credibility. Exactly. You have the street cred. Yeah. So so do you feel like you could have built your business the way you have if you didn't take the time to like actually put it in the time into the personal brand?
I mean, you can speak first on that one, but
I mean, I don't think so, because like I said, at the end of the day, it's like, there's lots of people in the space. There's lots of, just in the points in the trail space in general. But like, if you were to line everybody up and be like, oh, I think this person helps with that, but see what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to pretty quickly be able to pick us out of the line and be like, well, these guys are like, they're doing it. Like they're doing it, like, holy doing it. So I think just building that in the sense of, we don't talk about it, we don't talk the talk, we walk the walk. And I think building that where, obviously we have ads sometimes where that person doesn't know who Eli and I even are. And then all of a sudden, once that connection's made beyond that, what we're offering already grabbed their attention. And then to be able to have this asset being the personal brand to back onto, whether that's before the call, during the call, after the call, it's like, oh, okay, like this whole credit card point, it's not a scam. Like this is real. Like they're doing it.
Yeah.
And so are our clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think building the personal brand, maybe we could have done it potentially like without that. But the key behind the personal brand was that, to Tommy's point, we were living it and we are living it. And to me, that not only helps showcase the brand from a lead generation, but internally with the culture. It's like, if, when you guys do a bunch of incredible deals in real estate, like you're jacked up and the team feels it and they're like, these guys know what the fuck they're doing. Like,
exactly.
There's a whole energy to that. And for us, it's like when you start to do some of these trips and you know how epic the redemptions are and the experience, and then you bring that to the team, the team just has this like legit, we know what we're doing feeling. And I think that is probably just as important as having a good appearing social media.
Oh, for sure.
It's kind of the confidence that comes from the work behind the scenes in that.
Oh yeah. Well, that, and obviously there are people out there that might be posting stuff that they're not actually living, right?
Right.
But but when you are legitimately posting, people can see the authenticity behind it, where you're like, okay, like this guy cannot be on all these trips all the time if he's not actually like doing something.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that. So pivoting a little bit, like what's your favorite airline? Just like across the board.
Oh, I mean, I've flown probably 100 different ones. So like, when we're talking about first class here, I mean, most of you are thinking like, oh, I flew first class on American or United. Yeah. That's like domestic first class.
Yeah, that's not.
There's a whole nother realm that we're talking about in terms of a true first class. This is the Dom P. This is the caviar. This is the fully enclosed suites. So the Middle Eastern airlines being like Emirates and Etihad, even Qatar. Insane. There's even a couple of like ANA is one of Japan's airlines.
Yep.
Dude, the experience is like, you are just pampered from the second. I mean, you can't even lift a finger. Like it almost gets to the point where you're like, no, like seriously, I'm good. I've got everything I need. Like, oh my God. But having that kind of travel experience, that's when the switch turns on. When you're sitting in this fully enclosed suite, you're on a 14-hour flight and you don't want it to end.
Yeah.
That's when all of this stuff, that light bulb, be like, oh, that's why I was using that card. And that's a $14,000 flight. But you just put your groceries on an Amex Gold card, and now you're having this travel experience. So, I mean, Emirates is probably the favorite, and then Singapore and Etihad are my second.
Yeah, I would pick Emirates as well, and particularly like, so there's only like 5 airlines that have an in-flight bar around there.
Yeah, give or
maybe
take
5. So there's that experience, right? And one thing we did really cool last year. So every year I host an annual entrepreneur ski trip, and we basically like rally up the crew and we're like, we're going. So last year was in France.
Okay.
And there's actually a route, because most people think Emirates, okay, they're out of Dubai. I don't want to fly out of Dubai all the time. It's like, well, they actually fly it on, it's called a fifth freedom route, but this is when an airline flies between 2 countries that are not the originating country. So Emirates will actually fly from New York to Milan. So we flew that, and they have this double-decker plane with the whole, the shower for first class, but in business class, you get access to it looks like the James Bond bar.
Yeah.
So we had 25 of our friends. Jack, who was on your show before, was there too. and we had 25 of our friends on the in-flight bar during the flight.
Oh,
and
that's
so
a
like,
blast.
yeah. So when you ask like favorite airline, I think about that moment. I'm like, that was like a defining life memory making moment. And so Emirates has the has my heart in that one. Yeah,
It was straight out. I mean, it was straight out of a movie.
Yeah.
And obviously we use points.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe there was a couple scenarios where like maybe somebody bought an economy ticket and then we upgraded, but it was 20 plus of the crew all on points where that would have been,
well over 100,000. Yeah.
Yeah. $100,000 worth of travel that everybody,
just
drinking our Kool-Aid, they got their points, and we, got not only planned the trip, but then got everybody on their points, got the 10X win, and talk about like a memorable travel experience.
Yeah.
I mean,
so how much of did you have to do points plus any dollar amount, or was it all straight points for the most part?
Yeah. So I would say, anytime you're booking these points flights, we talked about transferring them out. There's always going to be some kind of little small tax fee fuel surcharge.
For sure.
In this particular flight, I want to say it was about $100 flat.
That's
so
crazy.
It was, they've increased it since then, but it was 72,500 Amex points plus $100. This was a $4,000 or $5,000 flight.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. Because I remember I'm like kicking myself because like when I flew to Greece and I was talking to you guys about it, I think I spent probably like about 100,000 Amex points, and I still had to like throw some cash. And we flew. It was Delta's like I forget what it is.
Delta One.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it was nice, and it was like a great time.
Was it the bed or was it the recliner chair?
It was like the reclining. Like it was like a bed basically, but it wasn't like the suite. I didn't get the door, but it was like a lay flat.
Okay,
chair.
so they all have. Yeah. This is one of the kind of annoying things with some of these airlines. Is they have different names. Like Virgin calls it upper class. Delta One is like their first class with the bed and suite. So you probably flew like the premium select or what they call first class sometimes. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was
still great.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like it was a cool flight, but I still ended up spending like another like 3,000-4,000 to go, and it was for two people. So it was like So again, I'm like for 72,000 points, you got a way better experience.
Well, so I was just going to say, so with going to Greece, Emirates also flies from Newark into Athens.
Yeah.
So with that 150,000 Amex points you had, that would have covered basically one round trip ticket.
Wow.
Had we taken those points, transferred them to Emirates, and booked off the award chart.
That's so funny.
So, don't worry about what we did in the past. Worry about, we're going to do it this way next time.
The good news is I spend a lot of money. So,
there you go.
Well, I was going to say, so the cool part about that Emirates thing too, so think about this, right? So 72,500 points for that ticket. Yeah. Okay. If you were spending on social media ads and you had a card like the Amex Business Gold, which earns 4 points per dollar on ad spend.
Yeah.
And you spent $20,000, which if you spend $5K a month, that's 4 months.
Yeah.
Right. That's 80,000 points. So that one card change for 4 months of ad spend gets you that ticket over there.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. Like business owners are already doing the hardest part of this because they're already spending money every day in their business. And so you make it just a couple tweaks to the cards and a couple tweaks to how you use the points. And that's how you get
That's actually a really good point too.
Yeah.
So what would you say are the best business credit cards currently?
So again, it really comes down to what you spend.
Yeah.
But for generally, like for ad spend, the Amex Business Gold is phenomenal. That's just like a no-brainer. Pretty much everyone should have it. Software, ad spend, really, really good. Depending on a couple of the other types of spend, like for someone that's a home builder, we have a lot of clients that spend a lot on like, they're like roofers or home builders or run a pool supplies company. There's a lot of inventory. They're going to Home Depot all the time, people that are doing flips, and you want to get a card that earns 2 points per dollar on what we call non-category bonuses. So that'd be something like the Capital One Venture X for business. There's a personal version and a business version. Yep. And those would probably be two that I'd recommend. What else would you throw in there?
Yeah, kind of same idea applies with business person. Where's the spend at? What's the best card for it? What's really cool with the Amex Business Gold is it kind of adapts to the business. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to take your two highest spending categories each month. There's about 7 or 8 different categories. And it's going to associate, okay, you spent, your biggest categories was, software and it was ads. You're going to earn 4x points on your top 2 spending categories each and every month. So the ability to maximize that earning on our bigger spend areas, that it's like 3x on travel, but it's almost like a one-stop shop. Now, that other layers of spend, you're kind of going to go down to 1x. So just like Eli said, you want to attack those 2 or 3 bigger items. Okay, so shipping, ads, I got my 4x points, but I don't want to only earn 1x on everything else. So then bringing in something like a Venture X business, now all of a sudden, everything else, I have a 2x floor.
Wow.
Is the baseline. So that's pretty much the name of the game, like 2x on every dollar, no matter what. And we look for the easiest opportunities to turn that into 3x, 4x, 5x without, you don't need to have 50 cards to do this. Three cards does a lot of damage and keeps it simple.
Yeah, that's incredible. And for a lot of these business owners, and I know you mentioned like some of these like cards that have like 0% interest and stuff like that. Because you can get the kind of double whammy then, right? So like, because most of the cards that you mentioned typically have like a 0% for a certain amount of time. I think like the Amex does. I could be wrong, but
there was a couple times where Amex did a promotion for that. But usually, I mean, think about it from the bank's perspective, right? The 0% APR or the points are designed to hook you in.
Exactly.
And then you become a lifetime customer for them. So usually they're going to offer one or the other. Rarely is it both. The only cards we're going to get like good points earnings, at least from the bonus standpoint and the 0%. On the business side is the Chase Inc. So the Chase Inc. Unlimited and the Chase Inc. Cash are 0% cards. Yeah. They have a high bonus and they're good kind of like everyday users as well. Otherwise, you're usually either getting like, hey, this is going to be a great card for sign up bonus points and spending, or it's going to be a good 0% interest card. Yeah. You're not typically going to see both of those.
Are there any major like card providers that you want to stay away from?
I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, but they have good 0% cards. They do not have good travel cards, and their interface and customer service drives me up the wall. Is Bank of America. Really? I hate working with Bank of America. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's just brutal. I was actually on the phone with them for 2 hours today, which is like, I was trying to fix like one small thing and like it got passed around. So to me, their interface isn't good. They don't have good points cards. The only reason it's worth it is the 0% stuff, really, in my opinion. But yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, I would double down on that. It's like, obviously being able to have the relationships with the bigger banks, that's just good strategy regardless. But okay, what's more important to me here? Am I looking to, do some credit stacking and, bring up 100K at 0%? Okay, there's going to be great banks for that, but guess what? You're not going to be playing the points game with that. Yeah, exactly. Or it's, hey, you know what? Maybe, the business is running. I've got everything in line. I don't need any credit, 0%. Well, let's focus on maximizing our points earnings now. So in terms of the best banks, I would just say in general, if you want to do both, almost simultaneously, you can go with Chase, where Chase will have that Chase Inc. Cash, the Chase Inc. Unlimited, where you got your 0%. Those cards do also earn points. You're not going to be ripping 3x, 4x, 5x, but if you got 50K at 0% and you're going to be ripping points along the way, I mean, that's a win. So generally, I would say kind of Chase is your best option for being able to kind of dabble into both.
Got it. Okay.
And that should be pretty ongoing. As far as I know, they've always done the 0% on those
Chase
cards.
Customer Service and like their actual bank interface, great. Chase and Amex are probably the two favorites in terms of like interface and customer experience and stuff like that too.
For sure. Yeah. And so I have both gold and platinum for Amex, and then I have just the Sapphire Reserve? No, it's preferred. Yep. Yeah. Like, should I at this point just upgrade to the Sapphire Reserve? Or if I have like a lounge access already, like is it enough? Yeah.
So the biggest piece with the Reserve card is like, okay, you got your Platinum card. Yeah. That's your card for flights.
Exactly.
5X. You got your Gold card, you got 4X for food. Well, the Reserve, it kind of covers your travel piece like the Platinum does, and it kind of covers your food. So in terms of a points earning piece, maybe there could be some gain of filtering that into the mix as well too. The biggest piece with the Reserve card is, we talk about not going through the portal, going to Chase Travel, redeeming your points. We don't like to do that, but that doesn't mean we can't. If we're sitting on a few million points and there's a flight that I just need to be on and I want to use my points, well, with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, we can go through Chase Travel and redeem all of our Chase points, including the Inc. points, for 1.5 cents per point. Right now, you're at 1.25 cents with the preferred. But like I said, we can pull your Chase Inc. Unlimited. You're getting 1% cash back on those Inc. cards. We can send those over to the Sapphire Reserve. So that card, in theory, not in theory, but in reality, that increases the value of all of your Chase points by 50% just by holding that card. So yes, there's some additional points earning layer there, but think of that as a supplemental card to everything else you're doing, and it's the best possible plan B scenario when you want to use your points is, okay, you know what I'm looking for is just not available. I can't transfer them out, but hey, I've got a bunch of points. Let's use some. You can go through Chase Travel. It's the best possible way to use points when you're not transferring. And that's across all banks.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Interesting. So when utilizing this stuff, like who's like your core demographic right now? Is it a lot of business owners, or are they mostly,
Yeah, primarily business owners, but we really service them on any stage of their journey. So it could be the nomad that's starting out that wants to learn some of the stuff. We have our program where it's going to be more mentorship style. And this is like probably us, 7-8 years ago, where it's like, how do I figure this out? How do I piece this together? How do I create this amazing lifestyle while I'm in my 20s or early 30s or whatever it may be, and learn the strategies to do this. And then we have the higher level business owners that are just like spending a ton. They're traveling a lot. A lot of times they have an executive assistant that handles their travel when we work as the go-between for them.
Cool.
So it really doesn't matter what level they're at. We have a tier for them. But a lot of people ask like, oh, do you like start them here and ascend them? It doesn't really work like that, because it's not like a lot of our clients are starting and then in 6 months like they went to 8 figures. That's usually not the case. It's more like they get in at a level and then they would just continue with us at that level if they want more continuity. Yeah.
So what's on the roadmap for 2024 with the two of you?
Man, a lot of good things. So we're doing more, we haven't done a ton of like podcasts and speaking and stuff like that to date. We've been pretty busy building a lot of travel. So definitely a lot more of that. Building out the team. We're launching a couple new cool offers that will be coming out here pretty soon, but they're not public yet. But that really just building out a great team. And we have awesome team members so far, and just continuing to be able to deliver the service at the quality we're doing at more scale is really the thing we care about the most right now.
Love it.
Yeah. Gonna piggyback right on that. I did 114 flights last year, and let's just say that the last 50 of them probably weren't as fun as a lot of my flights are, because I'm just like, but between trying to continue to grow and scale the business, but then living the brand and traveling and trying to maintain some sense of sanity and actually have fun if I can. But the idea is still going to be traveling full-time 2024, but we're going to be moving slower. I don't need to go to 4 countries in 1 month.
Yeah.
I don't need to if I take 114 flights next year, I'm going right to the loony bin. But still traveling, still, eat, sleeping and drinking this stuff, but slowing it down, bigger. We don't need any more street cred.
Slow for him is like way faster than you typically dream of.
He's like, I'm just going to go to 2 countries this month.
Yeah, exactly. No, seriously. That's actually it.
So that is actually the skill factor. Let's just do 2 a month. But the focus is on just doubling down on everything we've built up to this point, and just taking things to the next level. So that's where the head's at.
Yep.
What do you think were some of your biggest lessons of 2023 business-wise?
Oof, that's a great question. I think it would be knowing the order to delegate things. So I made some hires where it was like, oh, this would be like, we're growing really fast. Like, let me just hire someone in sales.
Throw people at a problem.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have the systems, the infrastructure for it yet, or it was the wrong order. Like I was delegating the wrong thing at the wrong time. So there's a book, actually one of our clients, Dan Martell, wrote it by Back Your Time, and phenomenal book. And that philosophy is something that I definitely am starting to leverage more, where it's like really getting clear, what is the thing that I'm specifically really great at that is uniquely mine, and same for him. And how do we make sure that as we grow, we're buying back more of the time that is not that thing, and just staying more in our kind of zone of genius in our lane, and focusing more on buying back the time so we can focus on that rather than just hiring people to grow. So for me, that'd be my biggest one.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think a lot of our, I love Dan, by the way. So he's speaking at our next Wealth Con in April. So he's
sharp guy.
Yeah, no, he's great. He was at another one of ours too. And so love any time that he speaks. So it's also he's a client and stuff. But that's the same challenge that we run into too, is just like when to delegate. And then when you are delegating, making sure that you're giving them the right frameworks and the right tools to go do their job effectively. Because, we've run into issues, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs do, where they just hire somebody and all right, go do it. And then what do I do now? Right. So
totally.
So it's been a big challenge, but what do you think?
I think my biggest, just learning point, this year was, obviously we got a good amount of clients now, but what's crazy not crazy, but with our stuff, every single one of my clients, especially with our fully done for you, what's a home run for him is not a home run for him. What's important for her is not anywhere near as important for them. So my biggest problem / opportunity was that communication piece, and being able to communicate. Hey, what are the most important things for you? Because there's a lot we can do with this credit and points and all this kind of travel stuff. Yeah, what's going to be the most important for them? What's their priority? So it's being able to communicate what's going to really make them say, we're doing this. Because it's different for everybody. We got every different possible industry. We got people with families. We've got solopreneurs. I mean, it's a huge array. So there's no cookie cutter. Okay, here, put this together. They're all unique. So I think one was learning that we do have to extract that information in order to deliver that highest level of satisfaction at the end of the day. And then also, communicating, making sure that the client knows like how to maximize and use us in the best way possible. So I would say it was almost a 2-lane communication where, hey, tell me exactly what's going to put you over the top. And then the reverse communication of that was, hey, I can do that. Here's what I need from you. And it's very, very simple, but hey, I want you, when you message us in Slack, do this, or hey, these are the things you want to reach out for us for. Or if I see you on Instagram and you're traveling and I know we didn't look at your flight, I'm going to message you and be like, dude, did you learn everything or did you just try to secretly buy me? But yeah, I think just communication as a whole was the big learning point last year. And then in terms of just really carrying that into, that's not just a one and done thing. That's a continuous, always areas to improve and get better, but that's kind of driving the boat for 2024 as well.
I love that. And especially when we have people like yourself in the coaching and kind of education space, a lot, what you mentioned about hey, having your clients understand how to best utilize you is something that I think is so major and a lot of people don't really think about, because whether you're a personal trainer, you're in your space or our space, whatever it is, right? These clients come on board and sometimes they don't get onboarded. They might not get onboarded in the most effective way for them. And so communicating, saying, hey, these are all the things that you can reach out to me for. And I'm sure there's even more, but this is all the ways that I can help. So make sure that you are actually utilizing me, right? So I think that's major for anybody who's in the space. So I love that.
Totally.
100%.
Yeah. So as far as, where do you feel like the industry is going to be going in 2024? Do you think points are here to stay? Because I know sometimes some people, they get exploited with points on as far as the banks and stuff like that, and they try to change things and pivot. But
absolutely. I mean, think about what points are. Points are merely an incentive tool for banks and airlines and hotel programs to incentivize customer loyalty, and they're always going to want to do that. And points are the most effective way to do it. And there's, we live in the U.S., which just by mere fact of being born here, we're lucky. But specifically, the credit system here is 1,000 times better than any other country, and specifically the point side. So I do think that points will continue to be a big thing. I think it's just going to become more and more accessible to more people, which means that the banks and the airlines are going to just change the rules. And that's what they do. There's a little bit of a moving goalpost thing. And so that's where staying on top of this and getting out ahead of things is good. And that's also why we're huge advocates for not just hoarding points and not spending them, because a point today is going to be worse than it is 3 years from now. Right? They're just going to devalue those points. But I don't think points are going anywhere. I think as the world continues to get more remote, people see more stuff on Instagram. The idea of he's living out of a hotel 15 years ago, that wasn't even a possibility. Yeah. So I think that's just going to become more and more of the norm. And I think points is going to continue to be the way to do it. But that's why for us, our mission here is really to be the go-to travel experts for entrepreneurs who travel. And so whether it's points, whether it's other experiences, it's more, points is the easiest way to do it, but it's really about how do you create the experiences so that 20 years down the road, you're sitting at the Thanksgiving table and you're reflecting on awesome trips and memories. And that's really honestly what the core of it is. It's just that if you're spending money and you can earn points and do it for free and do it more epically, why wouldn't you?
Exactly. So, I love that. Yeah. And so personally, for the two of you, are there any personal goals or anything that you guys are trying to do in this year?
I would love to get to the point where there's actually another buddy who wrote a book called 2-Week Vacation Test. Austin Netzley is a great entrepreneur in Austin. And I'd love to test taking 2 weeks completely off from the business, because before we built it, right, there's different stages. There's okay, I'm kind of solo freelance doing this. I have a lot of freedom. And then we built a team and it was okay, now my time freedom has gone down. So I'd love to see us get into the place where I could step away for 2 weeks without checking Slack, come back and be not only did we not go down, we actually grew. So that's a personal goal for me with the business. Yeah. And I want to obviously do an epic trip during that time. So that's mine. Yeah.
I haven't touched too much on 2024 goals outside of just the mindset of I identified it. Hey, dude, we need to slow down the travel, because that was
a lot.
It was about as full. It's basically insanity, but dial back the travel and dial up the focus on everything we've already got built up. We got the hardest parts of it down, and now it's just taking what we have and running with it. Last year I lost 50 pounds last year.
Wow.
While
you look
doing
great.
all this travel. So I got that out of the way. So now it's well, man, I don't need to be, a savage at the gym, twice a day, 7 days a week, try to get in shape. So I'm okay, let's take that energy, got to put it somewhere else. And it's definitely on the business side of things and just keeping keeping this train rolling and rolling fast.
Dude, that's awesome. So favorite country? I'll even take it a step further. Favorite city?
Oh, wow.
City.
Yeah. No one asked that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I can jump in while you're thinking.
Jump in while I had to sit on this.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I usually end up saying, like, I know that was your question. I'm going to give you 4, but I'll give you one.
You can give me a few.
Okay. All right. Well, one that I always say, like, you got to go experience is Tokyo. Like Japan, just to me, and here's why. A lot of like really cool places, specifically in Asia, they're amazing. And they've seen the US dollar come in, or, you know, like a lot of, you know, the British pound, like travelers coming in from Western cultures that are going to spend money. So they started to cater their tourism more towards Westerners. When you go to Japan, it's like you're in Japan. And like the way that the restaurants work and like the service and the subway and like everything, you're just like, wow, this is a really different but freaking awesome culture. And that's the only place where I would wake up early. I'm not really a morning guy. I'd be like, I'm getting up at 6 a.m. because I need to fit in an extra meal today because the food's so good. So I was like, between the ramen and the sushi and like all the awesome stuff, to me, Japan is amazing, and Tokyo specifically is just, it's an unbelievable experience.
What would you say to people who are like worried because it is such a like, it's so foreign, right? Like if I go to Mexico or if I go to Thailand or wherever, like I can kind of get by with like a little bit of English and somebody's going to kind of cater to me. But what I've heard about Japan is, again, like you mentioned, you're in it, and like not everyone speaks English. And so what would you say to those people who are a little worried?
Some people might not like this answer, but I like to do, when I have decisions in life like that, I do what I call like a reverse regret analysis. People use a fancy term, but it's basically like, if I'm 95 years old looking back, what would that person say? What regret would I rather not have? I'd rather regret going to Japan and something weird happened for a minute and I was fine than being like, shit, I never went to Japan. Yeah. You know, so you got to think of it from that standpoint. Like, there's going to be a little bit of discomfort when it comes to travel, but that's part of the fun. That's part of like exploring and having adventure. Now, that doesn't mean go take like ridiculous risks and go places and put yourself into dangerous situations. But it does mean to me, like, just because you feel uncomfortable with it doesn't mean that should be a reason not to go.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's my take.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Just a double tap on that, but I guess we have smartphones.
Yeah.
Okay. Like when my first couple trips, I think we were maybe just into that cellular data. I mean, not like it don't matter or anything, but like, cellular data was like a new thing. And you go to some of these countries, well, that really wasn't even a thing. Or if it was, 30 seconds, you trying to pull up an email is going to cost you $100. So, but now all those like, oh, I don't speak the language. Oh, I don't know where to go. Oh, what's on the menu at the restaurant? All those things that for all the previous generations where we've been so fortunate, like all those questions or concerns, it's kind of a in my opinion, it's kind of a non.
You got Google Translate,
yeah. Don't lose your phone. Then you might be in a little bit of trouble. But having that phone just really, I couldn't imagine doing it without it. And then so if all those concerns are wiped, and you're sitting on a couple million Amex points, now I don't have to worry about costs, and I don't have to worry about any of the other stuff. So it's like, what's your excuse?
Exactly, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like eliminating all those excuses for you to not be 90-year-old Tommy in the rocking chair. Like, you'll be sick of my stories by the time I'm done yapping, as opposed to like, well, I wish I could have done this, or you tell me a story. I don't have any to tell you. So yeah, but I think what was the question? Favorite place?
Favorite city.
Yeah.
So that's too tough. And the country thing is also a tough question. I've been to 79 countries. I've been within each of these countries. I would just say like kind of just two like super, I think important, but then also like insanely just awesome, just travel experiences. And this might be multiple
locations. This is good.
I would say one in terms of like that holy shit kind of just over the top luxury. Where am I? Is this real life kind of thing? And I would say there's two scenarios, both involving an overwater villa. One's going to be in Bora Bora, a little more exclusive. You got the big mountain there. The other one would be Maldives. So, and especially if we have points, both those places, you're talking $1,500, $2,000 a night minimum. Yeah. Before you even, have a drink or take a bite to eat. So Bora Bora is like, I've been there I don't know. It's sad that I've
it's good. Yeah.
I've been to Bora Bora.
That's the goal.
3 times, and I'm already looking forward to going back. So Bora Bora like definitely holds, I don't know, it's just insane.
Just luxury. Yeah.
Over the top luxury and just like crystal clear blue water. You got the mountain right there. It's just mind blowing. Well, luckily my travel has progressed into being able to do those types of things. My first trip, I went to Nepal, and I think it was 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I wanted to go. How far away in the world can I go? Like, I just kind of spun the globe, and I'm like, oh, Nepal. Like, oh, that's where the Himalayas are. Like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, there's mountains over there. And, I didn't really know too much about it. Well, I land in Kathmandu, and you get out to the airport, and this is, I'm like 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Confident, but also like not really know what I'm getting myself into. You just walk out to the airport and it's just chaos. I mean, there's just people, grabbing at you, this and that. Get to the hotel and I'm like, get in my bed. I'm like, okay, cool. Made it to the hotel. Wake up the next morning. I'm just walking down the street, and I say street loosely. I mean, I'm talking this rubble and I'm walking by, and there's legitimate just dead bodies just on the street.
Wow.
Yeah. So in terms of that experience of just like people are walking by this dead body that was clearly there for several days. This was a normal day in the life.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about perspective when you see something, you're like, what the fuck? Like, is this real? Like, what the hell's going on? Well, take your everyday real life and where we got to,
mm-hmm.
good old America. We got it pretty good. You go see something like that.
Yeah.
And that's the normal in other places of the world. Talk about putting a little perspective on life.
Mm-hmm.
And man, when you can go see the other side of the spectrum, it opens your eyes. And so I would say, do I want you to go travel to a third world country and see a body on the street? No. But what is super important, because that'll make you appreciate every single thing you do, is to have that experience. Go to that place that might seem, a little crazy, but hey, at the end of the day, it's like you're going to experience that. You're going to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a great trip. You're going to be really thankful that you get to fly home to the States.
Mm-hmm.
And also, man, I love going to Bora Bora and stuff, but nothing. I mean, I know when I go to a place like that, whatever money I'm, obviously I'm tipping very, very generously, but like you're actually like, that's impacting people's lives too. So I would say, get some cards, earn some points, go do a luxury holy cow thing, but also like go do that trip that'll open your eyes to the world.
For sure. I love that. And before we wrap up, like, what are the tips that you would give somebody to like stay safe in like a place like Nepal or, one of these third world countries that might be a little bit sketchier? Yeah.
So, especially, there's a lot of solo female travelers too.
I know.
Where, if my daughter was out like romping on the other side of the world, like that's what I was thinking. Well, I think granted, we have the smartphones again. So being able to share your locations, or like, there's air tags and stuff like that, like sharing your itinerary, just having someone that you can communicate with who, if they don't hear from you or vice versa, that there's maybe some idea of where you're going to be at.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing is like, you could be alone, but don't go at it alone kind of thing,
And do you feel like people kind of like blow that out of proportion a lot? Like there's a lot of times where like you've gone to some of these countries that are like unsafe and you're just like, dude, you know what? Like it's not that bad.
So absolutely. I was in Myanmar last year. That's like a level 5, do not travel. I mean, there's civil war going on. At the end of the day, if you think about it, like the government and the people want you to be there because you're bringing money. That's how they make money. And especially ones that are, heavily reliant on tourism. Well, if you're scaring the tourists off or they feel threatened or scared, they're not going to come. And you're not going to make any money and you're not going to be able to eat. So the idea of, hey, they want you to feel safe, but not everybody's nice.
Of course.
I mean, you could look like a target, and someone that might want to help you might truly want to help you. And most of them do. But then also at the same time, you just need to be very mindful of your surroundings, and just know when
things are a little off.
Something might not feel kind of right. That means it's probably not. Now, I've been lucky. I haven't had it. I've had some stories, let's just say, but I've never had any kind of major.
That's good.
Oh shit! Kind of experience. But you just got to be mindful of your surroundings, and especially if you're by yourself.
Yeah.
I think, travel insurance, big thing. That's not necessarily, that's a safety thing, but it's also just a health thing. You get sick. It's nice to know that you have that coverage. A lot of credit cards will come with certain benefits on that side too. Also just in terms of like how you carry money around and stuff like that, like you want to be cognizant, to your point, like how you also appear. If you're rolling in, you got like a $20,000 watch on and you're wearing Louis Vuitton stuff, like probably not the best look if you're going to a third world country. You should just kind of be able to calibrate to the environment. And usually that's one of the biggest things. And I think for people that are just getting accustomed to that, like I ran a group travel company for a long time, do something with a group. Go for the first time. You want to go somewhere, maybe do a group trip, or go somewhere where there's like a hotel or a boutique property or something where they're like really about introducing you into the culture and the experience. So you kind of have that local feel. I also, like I was in Cairo this past March and went to the pyramids. Phenomenal experience. I got a tour guide, and I would not recommend people going without a tour guide. You could do it, but number one, the experience, way more informative. You learn so much more. You have this guy who becomes your best friend who's telling you all the stories of the ancient Egyptians. And he's also like, we're going to get you food here, not here. So knowing a local, usually through hiring a guide is a great thing. And then the last piece is talk to people who have been. Like that is probably the most important one, is like, why don't you just have a conversation with a couple people who have been that you trust their experience. Like that is going to give you a lot of peace of mind and comfort as well. So,
well, you know, that piece too, like in terms of, you know, talk to somebody who's done it or who's been there. That's what's so cool about with our clients is, you know, we're not just like credit and credit card points. Like, you know, we're the go-tos for travel because, well, yeah, we're going to figure out how to get you there in business or first class, probably put you in a nice hotel, but we've been there. You know, we can relate. We can give recommendations, you know, that, hey, the do this, the don't do that. So like just to have that whole level of, you know, this travel expert advisor kind of in your pocket at the same time. So it's a cool, because hey, I mean, you've created those memories and experiences. And then the idea is like, well, hey, why would you want to just keep those to yourself when you can, you know, help others create their own version of that too. So that's a cool piece that we get to, and honestly, I didn't really think about it in that sense when we first kind of started rolling. It was like, okay, you know, first class flights, fancy hotels, flights and hotels. And then as this thing evolved, it was like the amount of value and knowledge we've been able to provide just on the travel piece as well. That's been super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So guys, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so you've got both of our Instagrams, which we can share. And then for anyone coming through here, if they want to set up a free complimentary consult call, we'll walk them through where they're leaving money on the table with the wrong cards, what they could do with their points, show them some cool trips. They can go to freedomtravelsystems.com/wealthy, and they'll give them a little special gift for listening to the pod here. But on Instagram, I'm Eli Travel Guy.
Travel like Tommy.
Awesome. This was super valuable. Ton of fun.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.